Hello and welcome to WWE Questions You Want Answered. I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture, joined by Adam Nicholas and Phil Chambers from What Culture to answer all the WWE questions that you want answered. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from for daily wrestling podcasts where we review Raw, SmackDown, the Wednesday Night War between AEW and NXT. Pay-per-views, we have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a roundup of the week, complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on Wrestle Culture. But as I said, joined by Adam Nicholas and Phil Chambers to answer all of your WWE questions. We are live right now on YouTube, so if you want to stick any questions in the comments, we'll try and get the boys to answer them as much as we can. But let's start with the big sort of breaking news today, lads, about WWE potentially allowing fans back in September. They have rescheduled a TV event that was going to be for SmackDown, I believe, in sort of April. Instead, that has now become a Raw TV taping for September in Cleveland. Adam Nicholas, could we see fans back for Monday Night Raw in September?
I'm not sure the question should be, could we see fans back in September? I think the question is, should we? Because how is this the response to, we didn't do any testing and we just thought we'd see how far we could get until someone got ill. Like, only WWE could go for a knee-jerk reaction like that. Yes, I'm sure they want to prove to their fans that they are still big and strong and that we all could be there soon and it'll all be fine. But it's not true, is it? It's not true. September is, it's a while away yet, obviously, but the rapid rate of sort of acceleration and deceleration and back up again for this virus seems to be, it's a bit of a risk, in my opinion. But I guess they want to seem like they're the first fast and whatever getting out there to make people think they're going to be going back to watch these shows. So WWE are going to WWE, aren't they?
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? I think we're all obviously desperate to have a crowd back. We would love to see a rather than a sort of artificial call and response that we see on WWE and arguably to some extent on AEW each week. You want to see those pops, but Phil, you also want to know that you can enjoy it without fear of like, oh, because whenever I see the Street Profits making their entrance through the crowd, I feel this pang of fear, and I just want to be able to go back to enjoying my wrestling. So as much as we want crowds back, you want it to be safe, don't you?
Yeah, totally. Especially since like what recently happened, where what was it, like 24 was rumored for how many positive cases they got, and that was just from a very sort of limited crew and crowd in the Performance Center. Imagine what it'd be like when they start getting thousands of people back. But Vince is desperate. He wants that first show back with a crowd. He doesn't want any other company to get it, so he's gonna probably push it way more than he ever should to make sure he gets that moment of them coming out on SmackDown or Raw, whatever it is, going, "We beat the damn virus," even though it's still probably killing people at extreme rates.
Yeah, and the thing is, as well, when I think about crowds returning, I think about, sold out arenas. I think about huge pops and boos and cheers and what have you. I don't think, and I sense this is also how Vince thinks, I don't think nice, well spaced out fans, everyone correctly observing social distancing. He wants to go back to the sweeping crowd shot of the signs and the people leaning over the barricade. And yeah, I don't think there's any middle ground there for Vince McMahon, is there, Nicholas?
No, certainly not. I mean, this is a man who persisted with WrestleMania despite the fact he had no fans in the first place. So he was the first to do it the other way around because he wanted to be, and he had to be the company who were going to, not even the virus is going to stop us from doing what we want to do. And he's now going to be using that same phrase, only trying to apply it to a full crowd in September. I assume there'll be some sort of restrictions in there, of course, but you're right. He wants that big full crowd, doesn't he? He wants it to be back to normal because they are all big, strong boys in WWE.
Yeah, I think the saving grace here is like, well, it's September, at least it's not July, so that's about what we can hope for, really. There,
I think the biggest shocker. I think the biggest shocker coming from this is that the plans are not in Florida as well. I think everyone expected Florida to be the first place to allow crowds back, and it's like Ohio or something like that was the plan.
Yeah, surreal, but yeah, I think Florida may have realised, or I would hope they are starting to realise the error of their ways. Just it was the microcosm of that. I think it was the airport they tested, and it was like, oh, half of everyone. I was like, yep, that'll do it. Yeah, that bribe, that money, whatever you want to call it. And only take things so far. As I said, if you want to stick any questions in the comments for the boys, I'll try and get around to them as much as possible. Thank you to Mr. Phoenix for your donation, who says, anyone else finding an odd balance in wrestling right now? I'm an NXT guy, and I think that they are hitting the mark, so I'm able to laugh at everything on the other brands that would normally piss me off. Phil, how's it been for you? You have to watch SmackDown, for example. Are you taking the swamp match with a smile on your face?
I am hugely looking forward to the swamp match because it's going to be the worst thing in the world and I'm going to love every second of it. You've got to take it with a pinch of salt, most of it. There's good parts, there's bad parts, obviously. Like, take shining lights like the Bailey and Sasha story. That's probably the best thing on every show that it goes on to at the minute, and is still somehow, after like 6 months or whatever it's been, like still the best thing that they're putting out every single week. So there's highs like that, but then there's swamp matches to settle you back down again.
And just this week's Monday Night Raw, I don't know if you've seen it all the way through, Nicholas. I have, and it was a troll this week.
I'll be honest, Adam Wilborn, I haven't seen all of this week's Monday Night Raw. I'll be even more honest with you. I haven't seen any of it because I like myself too much to do that. Although I do tend to get that wave of things from yourself, the Dudley boys, and see that pretty much even if I wake up and think that I should have gone and watched it, that is quickly beaten out of me very, very quickly by your usual reviews of the show at the moment. Yes, I think it's safe to say that NXT is probably the best out of the three, but I think a lot of people have also noticed there's a few things creeping into NXT that are like, how do we put this? Very main rostery that are starting to happen. For example, the Great American Bash turning up on a show, along with other stuff that we could see continue to creep in there. But yes, NXT out of those three is definitely a bit of an escapism. And I have to be honest, it's in terms of the crowd sort of side of things, I think I'm in a place where I can watch it and enjoy it a lot now with the sort of the stipulations have got in place at the moment. I kind of like that crowd. That is enough for me to feel engaged. I appreciate we all want them big crowds back, but at the minute, that kind of works for me.
Yeah, the takeaways you need from Raw this week was a lot of distraction finishes. Peyton Royce probably should be world champion in my book.
That I have seen that floating around the internet. And Sasha and Bailey being the best, obviously.
Yes, her twisting brainbuster finisher on.
I'm surprised that wasn't the questions you were pitching of this. Is this the best finisher ever?
I've already go and listen to the Raw Review podcast because I've already campaigned for Peyton Royce to effectively be women's world champion in the next month or two. But yeah, there's that. And I want to quickly mention this because I do want to get to what you mentioned there about the Great American Bash and this Wednesday Night War this week in a sec, Nicholas. But Phil, your reaction to Ricochet getting a 365?
Yeah. Don't you mean Richard O'Shea, which they are definitely going to be moving forward with now as well? I mean, Vince can't let that go now, can he? We've got Shorty G and Richard O'Shea.
It was just, I was sort of talking about this on Twitter today, and I saw some people say, well, what are they doing with that? And I was on today's pod, I read through sort of last April to this April what he's done. And yes, obviously, he's had great feuds, obviously, with Samoa Joe and AJ Styles, and he's had a 22-day reign as United States champion. And then he was involved with the elimination of Brock Lesnar from the Royal Rumble, which was a real high point. And then he lost at what was it? Super Show. Oh, they all merged together, to be honest to me.
When was the last time he was even on TV? Like, he had that started the tag team with Cedric Alexander, and then they had
Two Fly Crew.
Yeah, mini feud there, and then that completely disappeared, and we haven't seen that for like 4 or 5 weeks or something.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. They're going to have to really put some rose-tinted glasses on to tell me that this is such a spectacular year for him, considering the grace. He's so talented. The thing is, I'm not burying Richard O'Shea. He's so talented.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are burying him. Just by calling him Richard O'Shea. They've already lost us.
But let's talk about where he was great. NXT, as you mentioned, Nicholas, the Great American Bash, coincidentally, is coming back for these next couple of weeks as AEW put on Fyter Fest. You look at the ratings last week; it was a real surprise. I think even myself and the Dadleys probably predicted that WWE would just edge it, but what was it, 150k in it? 786 plays 633,000 in favor of WWE. So can WWE, or can NXT's version of WWE, I should say, beat AEW in the ratings this week? Because you've got, huge matches on both sides of things. I think on NXT, you've got the first ever NXT strap match, Roderick Strong versus Dexter Lumis. You've got that fatal four-way elimination #1 contenders match for the women's title. And you've got, of course, Sasha Banks versus Io Shirai. And then at Fyter Fest, Cody's defending the TNT Championship. You've got the tag team titles, the women's title on the line. Who do you see edging it this week, Adam Nicholas?
I think we'll see AEW go back this week, just because Fyter Fest feels like a bigger deal. I know Great American Bash to the viewers of WWE television might be something they enjoy a lot. But I don't know, if I assume there must be, I hope so. There's some audience members out there who are like me, who can have felt it a lot recently, have felt it's Road Dogg, isn't it? All right, let's just stop beating around the bush. It's Road Dogg. It's Road Dogg and it's Shawn Michaels. You can feel the hands of them guys that are getting involved with NXT and turning it into mini WWE, which is not great from the product perspective. However, the stuff in the rings has still been great. So far, not a huge impact there, but I do worry. I worry very much about that, because we don't need a third brand of that stuff. That's the whole point. We need a third brand that doesn't bring with it all the main roster tropes. But yeah, I mean, I think if anybody's getting carried away with NXT being so far ahead in the ratings last week, a lot of people will tell you they still lost that tiny little by the tiny minority, in the big market that everybody wants to win. But ultimately, who cares, man? Who cares? Yes, the ratings are there. As long as there's two good products, you don't care. But I do think AEW will be back to where their usual position in leading the ratings this week.
Phil, before I get your thoughts, shout out to Mr. Phoenix again in the comments, who says, bit of trivia from your biggest fan in Canada. The Great American Bash is on Canada Day, July 1st. I love that. Phil, how do you see it going this week?
Yeah, I'm with Nicholas. I think there's been a lot more time and effort put into building Fyter Fest than there has Great American Bash. Obviously, it's been 2 minutes of, oh crap, what the hell are we going to do to counter Fyter Fest? I know, Great American Bash, that'll do. 2 weeks build, chuck it out. I mean, there's some great matches on there, don't get me wrong, but I think in terms of long-term storytelling and actually building to a final payoff, I think AEW are going to grab it this week or next week.
Yeah, I sense that they may just edge it. Just whether it be just, AEW fans sort of reacting to the, perpetual bad news about wrestling we've had for the last few weeks, but obviously in particular concentrating in the last couple of weeks. Maybe that's sort of reflective of it. I don't know. I think it's going to be tight. WWE were hammering NXT on Monday Night Raw this week, and we'll have to wait and see. But I would hope AEW outdoes them, because otherwise it's terribly reflective of the fickle nature of wrestling fans that are like, what? Great American Bash? Oh, brilliant stuff. Prince GQ24 in the comments. Thank you for the donation. I think everyone in the comments talking about, obviously, the fact that we do this every time we have this show. Where are Shayna Baszler and Bianca Belair? But Prince GQ24 says, thinking out loud, since they can't find anything for Bianca because it's so hard to book her, eye roll emoji. How about tag her with Naomi for a while? No fans till the show gets better as well. Yeah, it's weird that they're not doing anything with either Shayna Baszler or Bianca Belair, but I quite like that. It's just, if you want to keep her busy, making her in some sort of weird tag team with Naomi, that could work, couldn't it, Nicholas?
It could work. It certainly could. I mean, I'd personally like to see Bianca Belair out there and as a singles competitor. But then again, I'd also like to see Naomi back, because I feel like she was doing so much and doing so well. And I just keep going back to that Royal Rumble entrance of hers that went mad on WWE's YouTube page. It was 3 million plus views on that, because people love her. People really are into Naomi. She's worked her arse off to get to where she is. And then they just don't have anything for her again. And it's... If that's Naomi, who's been doing that for years, imagine being Bianca Belair and thinking, I really don't want to be at the very beginning of that journey, because that is a long-ass journey. But they've got some really talented women in the back there who are producing some of the best wrestling, or were certainly before they got took off TV. I mean, just put them back on telly.
The thing is, it's such a sometimes it's WWE just such by the numbers booking of like, right, okay, you fight this one, and then we'll obviously see you go and fight this person, and then we'll have a swamp match apparently. Well, whenever me and Sid talk about AEW, and he talks about these matches where you go, well, they can't book that because neither of these people can lose. Imagine off the back of say SummerSlam, where I don't know, probably Asuka's going to face Nia Jax. They've kind of built her up as this destroyer who injured Charlotte. Let's say she beats her, fingers crossed. Imagine then just going, right, okay, we'll just have a feud with Shayna and then Bianca Belair. Like, as much as you sort of using up great matches, if you book it well enough, you'll still have fans interested, Phil.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much more they can be doing with Bianca Belair and Naomi as well. I think Naomi was in like this backstage thing on SmackDown 2 weeks ago where it was like her, Alexa Bliss, and like Lacey Evans and Dana Brooke, like talking about who's going to be the next number one contender. And then the week after, they had a fatal four-way number one contenders match that Naomi wasn't even in. So it's like they brought her back for this one tiny little backstage segment, and then they completely forgot about it like immediately the week after. So they 100% need to do something there. Maybe a tag thing is a better place for her at the minute if they've got nothing for one of the singles belts. But they are doing that weird group that Lana's building at the minute with Natalia and Ruby Riott. So I mean, a little faction there for someone.
The good thing about this is when the person is talking, you can only see them, but I can see both Phil and Nicholas. Nicholas very much summed up my emotions there.
Honestly, man, how is that even a thing, man? Like, poor Ruby Riott is what I have to say to that. Poor Ruby Riott. That woman deserves so much better than being stuck in there with that. That is something.
I thought we were finally going to get a bit of a payoff to the Ruby Riott Liv Morgan storyline as well from like last week. They had a couple of interactions and it's like, oh, they're going to finally explain what happened between them. And then, no, just Ruby Riott's going to join Lana in it, so that's fine.
And that's where they get you, Phil. You start thinking, you start using logic, and then they just plug it free from you.
But that's exactly what I thought. I thought that, well, at least we're going to have some sort of, Liv Morgan save or, to come and stand at ringside to prevent, Billy Kay's excellent interference. And then 1, 2, 3. Oh, just
nope.
Hey, it's one. I mean, I'm happy, but okay. Thank you so much to Anthony Tunnell. I'll say Tunnell. Yeah, because he's got 2 L's at the end. It just says, I support all you guys do and love the content you put up for each individual shows. Wrestling is wrestling. No matter whose side you're on, you have a solid supporter of me. Anthony, thank you so much for that. We're talking about Naomi. We're talking about Bianca Belair, Shayna Baszler. I want to talk about WWE Evolution because it's obviously disappeared from WWE programming. It seemingly was a one-off pay-per-view they did, and yet was still one of the best shows they've done in recent years. Alexa Bliss had a recent interview talking about how gutted she was. She missed out on her dream match. She wanted to face Trish Stratus alongside Mickie James with Lita in Trish's corner. Obviously, her issues with concussions reared its ugly head, unfortunately, so she missed out on that. So, Phil, do you ever see them bringing back the Evolution pay-per-view? I mean, they bring back pay-per-views with not great memories, and that does well. Why not bring back Evolution? It's spectacular.
It seemed like a no-brainer ever since they did Evolution in the first place to just turn it into its own yearly thing, make it a network special or whatever, and just run with it because it was so good. It gave them plenty of opportunity to tell different stories with the women's division that they don't normally get a chance to do. Obviously, they always have the sort of title storyline and things like that, but they never have an undercard really for the women's roster. So it just makes sense. It's an easy thing to build to, especially now when they're kind of desperate for content for the network. And there seems to be no downside to doing it, which makes me wonder why they aren't doing it.
It was like, I remember when it happened, when they, when we got around to the sort of the same period a year on from the Saudi shows, and it wasn't that they said, right, no, we're not doing Evolution. They just didn't mention it. And so around our office, we were like, cool, so when's Evolution? They've not said anything about Evolution yet. What's going on here? It blows my mind because in terms of, and I'm not saying that they should only put this on Nicholas as a sort of face-saving exercise because they go, yeah, all right, well, Saudi Arabia's not got the best reputation, but look, women's wrestling. But having said that, it does sort of give them a bit of stock when it comes to morality, a little bit more. And that roster they've got across all brands is incredible.
It shouldn't even really be a question of morality, should it? Because, like, yep, they're going to do that stuff in Saudi anyway. But the amount of, like, positive energy that came out of this pay-per-view, like, across the board, this was such a big deal. And not only that, but they delivered. Like, it doesn't matter about, look, this whole pay-per-view shouldn't have been based around, like, financial gain at all. The whole point of the pay-per-view was to give back to these women who've had nothing, who couldn't even go to Saudi shows, who keep getting, somehow are still getting underappreciated and overlooked continually. And they put on this one pay-per-view. It was amazing. Loads of people will talk to you about the feud between Charlotte and Becky and that being like their favorite match pretty much ever between those two, as well as a bunch of other great matches that were on the card. And you just think, as Phil said, where's the downside? What is the downside? It's one night of a year. You could make it a special. If Vince really didn't want to, like, push it that much, it could be a midweek special and people would still want to watch it because it would be that good.
It's absolute insanity. And, you know, if you can get that match, Alexa and Trish, I feel like you can sell it on that. I mean, we've all really said at What Culture how much Bayley and Sasha needs to main event SummerSlam. But you could look at so many women where if you just went, okay, in 2 months, we want to get to Bianca Belair versus Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship. It's not difficult. You've got so many talented people waiting in the wings.
It's a no-brainer in terms of the belts as well. You think they've got the Raw Women's Championship, the SmackDown Women's Championship, the NXT Women's Championship, NXT UK Women's Championship, whatever it's called, and the Tag Team Championships. That's 5 titles there. Like 5 matches to make themselves. Just find the people to face off, which you could make some brilliant matches out of that. And then, I don't know, have a match like with a bunch of them in to say whoever wins that gets a shot at one of the belts or whatever way it is.
Big battle royal or whatever,
it's not complicated. These shows book themselves. It doesn't even take time.
And there was talk of doing like a Queen of the Ring thing as well, which would have been like a perfect centerpiece to build to an Evolution thing. So you've got like 5 title matches, a Queen of the Ring thing. Like, there's just so much you could do.
And Phil, like you sort of alluded to there, didn't you, about the free aspect of the network? If you want to push that, there's your in right there.
Yeah,
madness.
Makes no sense.
Right, as we head to sort of our final few questions here, Mark Andrew Breyer, I'm going to give this one to you, Phil, considering you're our SmackDown correspondent. Says Braun smashed the car up and the toy was already out. Could we see the Swamp match have a cameo of Cena getting eaten by a gator? Is he still in the funhouse? Phil, all yours, mate.
Yes, 100% yes. I've always said, like on Twitter or something, I would want the end of the match to just be like a fist going down into the swamp, like the end of Terminator, just going down. And if this doesn't happen, it's going to be very disappointed. If they don't have a big swamp playset, then they're just missing a trick.
Shout out to Ultra Funky for your donations. Thank you so much for this. Who just says, D'Lo Brown is still my favourite wrestler. So thanks for that.
Fair.
The first ever Euro Continental champ, says Ultra Funky. He was such a lovely guy to interview over WrestleMania weekend. I do believe our interview is still up.
Can you do the head wobble?
I tried to do it with him, and I got that sort of a response.
Sorry, there's a bit of delay there. Can you just do that again?
Okay, 1 second. I'll just make sure the camera's on, mate. Ready?
You're looking at the real deal now.
Look at the real deal. Right, final thing to end on a bit of a lighter note. I've read a great story today that I've no doubt will inspire lists and videos on this channel going forward. But Devon Dudley revealed that The Undertaker is a huge fan of the song Kung Fu Fighting. It's his guilty pleasure. He loves dancing to it. I don't even care if Devon Dudley has made this song up. It is amazing. This story even about this song up. I think it's fantastic. So I thought we'd end by talking about some of our wrestling guilty pleasures. Thank you to L. Thursby, who says, thanks for the amazing content. For 100 days of lockdown so far, kept me sane. Even the iconic shouts. Shouldn't have to put in a caveat around that, but still. Adam Nicholas, what's some of your wrestling guilty pleasures, sir?
Well, I will say that I have just had a mental panic because you asked me to do that and I completely forgot to do that. But I do have one, and I would use this opportunity to plug it at every single opportunity I get. Phil should know where I'm going with this, but I'll tell you anyway, because there is a theme song in wrestling that is one of my favorite theme songs. Full stop. Doesn't matter what the medium is. I don't care. That is my favorite, and it's me and Phil discovered it, and we were sitting playing it, and it is an absolute. It's an odyssey. It's a masterpiece. It has so many different layers to it, and that theme song belongs to Ten Ryu. So whoever can go out and find it now, it is honestly, it's one of the best you'll ever hear. There's no reason for it to be nearly 10 minutes long or whatever it is. Or certainly that's how it feels. And it has about 5 or 6 different moments in the song that are just completely different compositions. We level up in song. It's amazing. If you haven't heard it, go and find it. And he came out no less. He came out at a WrestleMania. I can't remember which Mania it was, but he came out in a tag team and the bloody won. They turned up and beat quite a big team as well at the time. I can't think who it is off the top of my head, but they turned up, they won, and that was it. Never again. Just came in with the best theme song you've ever heard in your life and just left a winner, squashed the WWE and walked away. Brilliant.
I still remember that day, Phil, when you two introduced me to that, and I just
So good.
Sat open-mouthed, like you say, whilst I went on this journey. It felt like I think Odyssey is the best way to describe it there.
Yeah, it's the way it kind of builds to a crescendo, and then after the crescendo, it turns into a completely different song and rebuilds to another one, and then again, and it just keeps on going. It's the best.
You have heard bass lines in that song that are just otherworldly, followed by brass sections and God knows what else. Just go and listen to it. Ten Ryu, find it. It is amazing.
That's why I love doing these podcasts and stuff, because yesterday Michael Sidgwick reminded me about Kenny Omega's excellent Jon Moxley promo on Being the Elite, and now I've been reminded of this. Go and check both of those things out. Phil, what is your wrestling guilty pleasure?
Well, depending on who you talk to, wrestling is my wrestling guilty pleasure. But other than that, I'm just going to go with everything that Too Cool has ever done, including every dance break. It was the absolute best, and I loved every minute of it, and still a little part of me wants one of those Scotty 2 hats that doesn't have the top on.
Honestly, I gave a little nod to Scotty 2 Hotty recently when they were talking about Attitude Era stars that we'd love to see Orange Cassidy face. I still think that there's Nicholas got to experience this at this year's Royal Rumble, of course, with Edge returning. If that music hit and Scotty 2 Hotty came out of the Rumble, Phil, I think my face would melt.
Yeah, absolutely. Every single time it just brings a massive smile to my face, and I just love him. Just love him so much.
I've got the song saved on the Spotify playlist, and every now and again it just comes round, and I'm just listening to some. It usually comes on when I'm trying to play some music for some other people, and I have to go, oh no, not this one, obviously not this one. I like cool music. Oh, who likes Drake? We all like Drake, don't we? Anyway, but yeah, it's the weird sort of samples in there. I absolutely love it. Very quickly, because of Anthony Tennell gave us a lovely donation. He asks, if and when, who do you guys believe Drew will drop the WWE title to? Who do you believe is worthy of a next reign? Phil, is it going to be Orton, perhaps, at SummerSlam?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think Drew needs to be the one to stop the Legend Killer reign, to properly cement Drew as main event guy. I don't know who's actually ready to take it off him. I've no idea. Come back to me.
Who would you go for, Nicholas? Because I think Orton seems to be getting set up to obviously destroy Big Show at Extreme Rules, because that's another legend they've got to cross off the list. And then I can't see anywhere else for him to go apart from the world title.
Well, have I got an answer for you? Because this is a far cry, and it's not going to happen in a million bajillion years. But just hear me out, because what match is coming up in NXT in 2 weeks' time? We're going to be getting the North American champion versus the NXT champion for the belts, and whoever wins gets to be both champions. Now, we are assuming whoever wins that match obviously is going to be double champ, but is the person who loses going to get promoted to the main roster? And if that does indeed happen, what if Keith Lee loses to Adam Cole and Keith Lee goes up to the main roster and starts his journey towards taking that belt off Drew McIntyre, who can defend it against loads of people up until that point, but then finally Big Bad Keith turns up and brings back, as Mark Henry talked about on his Stone Cold podcast, which we did a video on, you can find it on our YouTube channel. He just basically said he's bringing the big man magic back, and who could argue with him at this point?
Yeah, that's a really good shout. I thought you were going to go one way. You went completely the opposite way for the two people in that championship match.
Yeah.
For my guilty pleasure, as we wrap things up here, I think I've got a few fairly obvious ones with Titus, who I saw. I think it was 10 years ago yesterday. Got eliminated from NXT.
Why do you know that?
Just got to keep up with these sorts of things. It was between him and Husky Harris. Wonder what happened to him. There's that. There's obviously the Iconics. There is No Way Jose. Lot of love for him. One of my big things that I've never managed to do is be part of a conga for No Way Jose. I was really hoping that if they ever brought WWE Live with No Way Jose to Newcastle, I could be a part of that. But who knows? Best luck to him now. Obviously, now he's not part of WWE. But to keep things simple, I'm going to talk about something that we have done on our live stream a while back for the Australian Red Cross, and it's just banter era TNA. It's one of those things I can't look away from. There's been so actually being shared recently on Reddit Squared Circle of a frog splash off the bottom rope. There's also a video of him attempting a suicide dive and sort of changing his mind on there. But there is a classic match that we talked about when we did our stream of sort of raising money for the Australian Red Cross with crap matches, let's say. And Nicholas is no doubt knows where I'm heading with this. It is Jenna Maraska versus Charmel. It is it's a work of art because there's so many moving parts there. There's I can't remember who it was. Sojo Bolt, I think it is actually. Is that right, Nicholas? Gets knocked off. He's meant to be getting caught.
Listen, I don't know any of this. I didn't watch it ever at the time. And the first time I watched it was with you on that bloody live stream. So this was all brand new to me. This was all new to me.
So there was that. And it just... Jenna Maraska and Charmel is just something you really need to go and check out. It's a car crash in the best possible way, but anything banter era TNA, you just can't look away from it. Any memories of that, Phil?
That match or just banter era TNA? I think
just banter era TNA.
Because if you're just talking about that match, was there a bit where I can't remember who it was, like either comes over the top rope or off the top rope, and Awesome Kong's just like, I'm not going to catch you, and I'm not dealing with this stuff.
Yeah, any of that time TNA where they just lets my new nemesis, apparently Vince Russo, run wild. But anyway, we'll leave it at that. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. You can follow us all on Twitter at What Culture WWE. Watch there. Follow Adam Nicholas at
It's Adam Nicholas. And you can also follow Phil Chambers at
Phil My Chambers. And you can follow Adam Wilborn at
Adam Wilborn. Look at that. What synergy, boys. Follow us all, as I said, at What Culture WWE. This has been WWE Questions You Want Answered. Thank you so much for your questions, for your donations, just for being here with us, really. Thanks to Phil. Thanks to Adam Nicholas. And we will see you soon.